Welcome to another edition of the Comic Book Flashback. I'm All Across 316, and we are looking at X-Men, issue number 103. This issue came out in February of 1977, and as we look on the cover today, we have the Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy. Yes, they are continuing to fighting the X-Men. As we recall back in issue 102, that the X-Men were taking a much-needed vacation at Cassidy Keep, but upon vacationing at Cassidy Keep, they were sabotaged by the Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy, as we learn that Black Tom Cassidy and the Juggernaut have been scheming and plotting the defeat of the X-Men for a very long time, and they're after, as we see in this issue, where they are also after Professor Xavier. And so, upon that big battle, we saw that the X-Men were defeated by Black Tom Cassidy and the Juggernaut, but one member of the X-Men escaped, and that was Nightcrawler, but he was saved by a group of leprechauns. Yes, that's right, there are leprechauns at Cassidy Keep, and some of these leprechauns have names here. As we learn, this is Donald, and then this one right here is Pedrick. And so these group of leprechauns are carrying Nightcrawler, but Nightcrawler seems to be starting to stir here. Now let's just recall some of what's been going on, as we've seen that the X-Men were beaten pretty bad by the Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy. We have learned also that Storm hates enclosed spaces, and so she hates being inside this castle rather than being outside in nature, where she feels free. And so, as we recall, we know that they were on a vacation. This all takes place back in issue 102. We also saw how they needed to go on this vacation because of what happened to Jean Grey when she became the Phoenix back in issue 101. And so we have Professor Xavier and Cyclops staying behind looking after Jean Grey, while the rest of these X-Men are now captured by the Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy. So we see Nightcrawler starting to stir here, and so these leprechauns are starting to panic here. They don't know what's going to happen, but upon meeting here, Nightcrawler's like, "Who in the world are y'all? Am I dreaming?" But we see here that he is in fact not dreaming, and that he is being aided by these leprechauns here. And these group of leprechauns, I want to say, they are a group of family here. They are a big family. And one of the leaders is this guy right here, Eamon O'Donnell. And so he's like one of the head leprechauns here at Cassidy Keep. And he's going to help Nightcrawler find his friends and save the X-Men. Hopefully we'll see if that can happen. And so we see here that Eamon O'Donnell explains a little bit of what's been going on, and how that the Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy have not only held the X-Men hostage, but also these group of leprechauns and this big family, because they are close to Banshee. And so they've been held prisoner here for quite some time. And we also learn that Black Tom Cassidy and Juggernaut are working for Eric the Red, as we have learned that he's been a big threat to the X-Men for the past few issues here, as he's been manipulating different X-Men like Havoc and Polaris. Now, let's continue the story here. As we also learn that Nightcrawler has the ability to allow his body to disappear in the shadows. He's like, "No, it can't be." But as Nightcrawler tries that ability, it seems to work. And the only thing that we see here are his eyes. So that will play into a lot here, as we see later in this issue. Now, as we are looking at this new ability of Nightcrawler, they are suddenly alarmed here by this other leprechaun here, who is telling everybody that Black Tom Cassidy is going to start torturing the X-Men in Banshee's laboratory. And so that is not good. And so Nightcrawler's like, "Lead me to the X-Men immediately. I need to go save them." And so that's exactly what this guy does here. leads Nightcrawler to where the location is. They are looking inside, and yes, the X-Men are being tortured here, just absolutely tortured here by Black Tom Cassidy and the Juggernaut. And the Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy, they are working as a team, but we see that the Juggernaut wants to do something his way, but Black Tom Cassidy wants to do something his own way. And so there's a little bit of disunity here. And we also know that Juggernaut has a pretty bad temper. And so one thing that Black Tom Cassidy wants to do is he wants to torture the minds of the X-Men. He doesn't merely want to physically kill them first. He wants to torture their minds. And so that's what he's going to try to do. But we see also here that Nightcrawler has the ability to ship-shaped himself, as we've learned in the past few issues. He can take the appearance of any person using this gadget that came from Stark Industries. And so he tricks Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy, as we see here he takes the form of Professor Xavier, and we see that they come to learn that this is not the original Professor Xavier, as Professor Xavier looks to be walking and leaping off walls and stuff like that. So they know this is not Professor Xavier. And so they come to learn the fact that this must be Nightcrawler. And so the Juggernaut loses his temper and breaks a part of this big wall, causing just this huge explosion in Cassidy Keep here, as a bunch of granite rocks are just launched out from the building here. And this causes a big opening in a wall where now Storm is able to use the weather to her advantage. And so that's exactly what she does. She causes hurricane force winds to allow the X-Men to break from their captivity here. And so that's pretty cool here. Now we have Colossus and Wolverine pretty much allowed to escape here, but we see that the Banshee is taken captive by the Juggernaut here. So we have Storm, we have Wolverine, and Colossus finally free from their imprisonment. But we see that Banshee was taken hostage, so they're going to have to go back and find him. We also see that all this wreckage fell on top of Nightcrawler. And so will Nightcrawler be able to reawaken here to save the X-Men, or to contribute to the fight that's coming up next here? And so let's go ahead and see what Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy have up their sleeve now. They look, as we see here, that they're going to threaten to toss Banshee off the top of this castle here. And they said they'll do it one body part at a time. And so Wolverine has a knack of calling Storm abroad here, and Colossus can't stand it. We know that Colossus and Storm have a pretty tight relationship, and Wolverine yells at Storm as she flies up ahead to save Banshee, and he calls her a broad, a dumb broad at that. And Colossus does not like that, so he throws Wolverine. And then now we're going to see that Colossus is going to climb himself up on through this castle here to fight the Juggernaut. Storm is dodging all these blasts, these turrets here, energy blast. And we see that Juggernaut's throwing these huge granite blocks to try to cause Colossus to fall down. Just a lot of great artwork here drawn by Dave Cockrum here. We see Storm. She causes another torrential downpour to try to distract Black Tom Cassidy and the Juggernaut. We see that Wolverine meets one of the leprechauns here, and the leprechaun is going to try to help Wolverine locate where Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy is, as he was thrown in the opposite direction of where they are located. We also see that Nightcrawler comes to, breaks the bonds of Banshee here, and now Banshee is going to now finally get his revenge on Black Tom Cassidy, as we see that Black Tom Cassidy and Banshee are going to fight it off here, cousin to cousin. I mean, this is one epic battle here, as we see awesome stuff here, awesome storytelling once again. and we see that the Juggernaut and is facing Colossus and Wolverine, so he's busy fighting these two X-Men while Banshee is fighting Black Tom Cassidy. Black Tom Cassidy tries to kill Banshee with this axe, but Banshee hurls Black Tom Cassidy into the ocean here, and this causes Juggernaut to panic here. So Juggernaut dives into the ocean to save his friend, the only friend that he's ever had. So we see that this huge waves, this force 12 surf, engulfs both Black Tom Cassidy and the Juggernaut, and Storm at that moment causes the storm to go away, and beautiful radiant sunshine is now casted over Cassidy Keep, and they cannot find the bodies of both the Juggernaut and Black Tom Cassidy. So did they survive? Did they die? We don't know for sure, but we do know that Eric the Red has now joined forces with Magneto, and that is the next villain that the X-Men are going to fight in next issue as we look at issue 104. I hope to see you next time as we look at that great issue. And as always, before we get there, keep reading comics.